twice, 3 times. Anapelekwa kwa bush, alafu anaulizana, na hapa iko sawa? Yani hapo wamumalizie hapo. Maximum fear and terrorism.
Thank you, Your Excellency and colleagues who are here and members of the Fourth Estate. I hope I'll be able to give the story without being emotional. But I want to break it into 2 parts. And part 1 is at the burial the day before and at the burial of Erastus. The day before the burial, Rick G., the former deputy president, called me and he asked me to represent him in that funeral committee with 50,000 shillings. And he also said that he would attend that burial. So when I went there, I found so many people, roughly about 300 of them. And when I spoke to them, because they gathered, I spoke about what Rigiji had told me, pole, kwa familia, and then I've also brought my pole. And then I told them, for what Rigiji is doing in our community or our area, I would be pleased if Rigiji himself, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who is here, somebody like Matiang'i, our brother Eugene, and the rest of them, would join hands and liberate this country from what we are going through. The people who are there were very excited, extremely excited, even to hear that Rigiji was going to come. But more importantly, when they heard that there is intention to bring all of us together so that we can liberate our country. That was the day before. And so I told Rigiji, watu wamepokea vizuri na wamesema unaweza kuja. And therefore, the next day he called me and asked me, can you wait for me in an appointed place so that we can go together? And we did so. And he came and we went. I'm trying to make it short. And on reaching there, we found very excited crowd. Because I can tell you, on our arrival, an announcement that we have arrived, the crowd went wild. They were cheering. They welcomed us. The MCE also did the same. We got a place where to sit. But when we sat, I observed one thing that was unique. That the area MP, one John Kirago Chege, had declined to sit where the VIP tent was, and he decided to go and sit where the Akorino bishops were. And I asked, why would it happen? I just asked somebody. And they said he was offered and he declined. And so we sat in and listened to the people who were speaking, and then we listened to the sermon. Everything was looking okay. But at one point, when the bishop, the main bishop, was preaching, there was sudden influx of young men, who came from 3 different directions. Most of them did not come to stand or sit where we were. What they did is that they sat next to the fence, others near the gate, and the rest were somewhere near the toilets. And at one time I remember I went to the washroom, and there is, now when I was thinking later, there was this one person who had a cape and had a mask, was like hooded, who from afar escorted me to the toilet, though I had my voice. And then he came back and went behind the VIP tent. I did not take offense because I didn't know who he was. I'm saying that because you'll hear what happens when I get into the Subarus. So many people spoke, but I want to bring it to where I was invited by the area MCA. And the area MCA specifically, he actually hit out at the local MP for going to vote no, to vote yes against Rigiji. For that impeachment motion, as his vote was the vote of Limuru, and he said that was not our wish. Na watu wakapiga makofi sana. Then he is the one who invited me. I broke my speech into two. One, and I told the people, I'll give message of condolence, which I did. The second, I'll tell you why I will talk about Rigiji. So the first part went on well. Then I came to the second part, and I started talking about how Rigiji had come and decampaigned against me. However, I was now sharing a platform with him because we had decided to bury our interest in the greater interest of the community and the region. And as I started talking about Rigiji, there was a huge surge of youth who came specifically to the VIP tent. And I noted that VIP tent was like a target. So I was speaking and looking at them and trying to bring peace, telling them I'm peaceful, everybody who is here is peaceful. And they said, don't tell us about Rigiji. We would have voted for you, but he told us not to vote for you. I told them, that's fine. Even me, I would even probably not speak to him. But now that we have a common problem, we need to move together. They now started shouting back, said, no, we are not going to allow it. The first person to shout that, I told him, just relax. I explained, then you tell me whether what I've said is okay. But another person, a second one, shouted back. That event was somebody who pulled out the support of the tent. In that tent, I'm seeing now, when I saw the tent was collapsing on him, I kind of stopped. Because I wondered, where am I going? Our visitor is almost going down with the tent. But they pushed me out. Some of them are here. And of course, Rigiji had his own security. They took him to the car, and hell broke loose. They ran after us. And I want to make this clear that they had intentions. Because for the first time, I ran frantically for 2 kilometers.
You look like a marathon.
And what still is because it was downhill. So by the time I got where I was going, my knees were aching. Yeah, it's not a laughing matter, but we can laugh about it. And then at one time again we got onto the road, and then we saw those guys coming. Then they said, my guys told me, you know, those guys are carrying machetes, they are carrying pangas. Some of them have got these nut rungus. So the best thing you can do, tusipita barabara tena, when they see they can't get you, wataingia kwa boda boda, alafu watafika mahali tuko. And indeed I did that. And therefore we got into one of the houses. I want to believe he's a cousin of Baba Yao, because he so introduced himself. And when we got there, he told us, you are not going to pass through the actual path. Mutapitia kwa majani, mutapitia kwa mahindi, na mutapitia kwa napier grass, and into the forest so that they don't see you. When we explained what was happening. And he quickly said, can you take off? Because probably he imagined what kind of harm there was going to be. So we took off, and we ended up in some road. And one of my PAs, then I told him, now that we are here, what do we do? I cannot go to walking to the main road. I don't know what will happen. So he said, we'll ask for a taxi. And he asked for a taxi. And this taxi came, it was very near the main road. And because I knew those guys probably would come to the shopping center of Bibirioni, I decided then I'll tell the taxi to drive me away towards Naivasha, and wherever I'll be, probably I look for a vehicle means to get home, and that's what they did. In the meantime, I was trying to call my guys. My driver was not picking, but at least one of the guys picked and he said he's okay. Vehicles have been hammered, but where we end up to, you just go, we will see what to do. So me, I took off on the way towards flyover. There's a center called flyover. And we were in that taxi. There are two Subarus. One black came in front. One green was at the back. But the one that came in front just stopped askew in front of us. And then this other one, when we checked, it was just almost knocking the bumper of the taxi. So two guys came from the front one. They opened the rear door. I was seated with the area MCA. I had my phone, and I'm saying that because the area MCA's phone had fallen off. Nilikuwa namuuliza, where is it? He said, I cannot trace it. Tukapiga ikawa inalia lakini haichukuli. Akaniambia imeanguka huko kwa kiwanja. Sasa yangu nilikuwa naye. And when they took us into the first vehicle, a few meters, like 100, they stopped again. Both of them very close range. And they pulled him out into the rear car. And then a guy came from behind and I was sandwiched. McHugh. All these guys were hooded. And I said this because Palembele, I spoke about somebody who was hooded in the barrio. And now, these guys who are inside the Subaru, all of them, including the driver, are hooded. They have a mask. And they have, one had a cape and the others had, I think, baklava. Now,